Well, hi there and welcome to our latest collective worship. We're going to start as ever by looking at our memory bag. It's starting to get quite full. There's 6 things in here from the previous 3 weeks. I wonder if you can remember what we had. If we think back to week 1, the first crop we had was the grapes. Can you remember what we had along with the grapes? Well done if you said we had our turnaround sign. And if you remember in that story, we had the 2 boys who were asked to go and work in the vineyard, and one of them said, no, I don't want to do that. But then he realised he was making a mistake. He turned round and went and helped his dad out. What a great thing to do. And then our second story, we had the puppets, we had our farmer. Can you remember what went with that? We had our corn. And then we had something a bit strange. We had our potato head that's all ears, and we heard the story all about listening. Who do we listen to, and what do we do when we hear a message? Do we act on it? Do we make the right choice? And then last week we heard another story about a father who had 2 sons, one of whom in particular wasn't very nice at first. If you remember, in our memory bag we had the money to remind us of the money that he had and then wasted, and when he ran out of money, what happened to him? What did he want to do? He wanted to eat food belonging to some pigs. So well done if you remembered any or all of those. But my memory bag isn't empty. There's 2 more things in for this week's story. We've got a bandage, and then we've got a CD by a famous band called the Beatles. In particular, this album is called Help. So in today's story, we've got a bandage and we've got some help. I want to tell you a little bit about my life as a child, where I grew up, who I spent time with. Because as many of you who know me will know, I didn't grow up here in Chester. I think I've mentioned that before. I grew up in a town 200 miles away, down south, a place called Guildford, quite near London. And I absolutely loved it. I had a lot of fun there. Guildford's very hilly, unlike Chester. That was great. We had a field at the top of the road. And this is the house that I spent most of my childhood in. This is my bedroom window. And the house next door belonged to the Turner family. They had a boy like me, a year younger than me, called Duncan. This is Duncan now. And we used to spend a lot of time in each other's company. This is the wall that I used to climb over to get into his garden. There wasn't the big fence like there is now, so it was a lot easier to climb over the garden, play lots of football in his garden. We played lots of cricket. It was good fun because there were different bushes in the way, so you had to be quite creative to try and score a goal or to try and hit the ball around. It was great. I absolutely loved it. If the weather wasn't so good, or if we were tired from playing sports, quite often we go up to Duncan's room and we play another game, because Duncan liked collecting something. Duncan liked collecting rubbers like this. You might think, that's not the most exciting thing. Rubbers like that. Some of his were coloured, like this one. But Duncan didn't just have 1 or 2. He had a whole range of coloured rubbers, shaped rubbers. In fact, he didn't just have 1 or 2, or 10 or 15. He had over 100, I think. And so he and I would divide the rubbers into 2, just randomly. And then we give ourselves like half an hour or so, and we'd have to try and make a model, sometimes on a theme, sometimes no theme, we could just make whatever we wanted. We'd make a model, and then usually his sister would come along and judge which model she liked the best. It was great fun. I loved spending time with Duncan. We went to a youth club together. Even though we didn't go to the same school, we got on really well, and it was good fun playing with him, whether outside or inside. I loved having him as my next door neighbour. I didn't know the neighbours the other side as well. Then they were a lot older, but they were lovely too. Sometimes we chat. They were really nice. I loved my house. I loved growing up where I did. I had nice neighbours. Life was really good. Now you might be wondering, what's that got to do with the Bible? Well, Jesus was asked a question about neighbours, and we'll find out what it is in the story as we look at another one of these special stories that Jesus told. Remember, it's not a real story that happened. It's one that he made up to teach us about God, and this one is called The Kind Stranger.
One day, Jesus was teaching, and a man in the crowd asked him a question.
So, can you tell me, Jesus, what do I have to do to live forever?
You need to love God and love your neighbour as much as you love yourself.
But who's my neighbour? Is it just the person that lives next door?
Let me tell you a story, and I think you'll understand. One day, there was a man like any one of us, and he was travelling from Jerusalem to Jericho. Now, as you know, that is a very dangerous road, and there are no end of twists and turns and places for the robbers to hide. And that's exactly what they were doing when the man walked by. They jumped out, they grabbed him, and they beat him. So they took his money and they left him to die.
Oh dear,
Sighed the crowd. They felt sorry for the man. And Jesus went on with his story. In a little while, a man came walking down that road. He was a priest on his way home from worshipping God at the temple. He saw the dying man, and what do you think he did?
he helped him. He saved him.
No, he did not. He took one look at that poor beaten man and then hurried on past as fast as he could.
Oh no!
Wait, soon another man passed by. He served God at the temple too. So what do you think this man did when he saw the wounded traveller?
He ran for help, and then he raised the alarm.
No,
Oh,
he did not. Just like the priest, he crossed over to the other side and walked past the man as quickly as possible. Don't worry, for there was one more man who came by that day. He was a Samaritan.
a Samaritan? They're different from us. We hate Samaritans, and they hate us.
So I've heard. But when this Samaritan saw the man, he did not walk away.
What's happened? Oh dear, you look really poorly. Let me help you up. Come. Take my stick. Thank you. I know an inn who will get you better. I'll pay. Come with me.
And so the Samaritan took the man to the nearby inn, and he paid for that man to stay there until he was well. So tell me, who was a neighbour to the man who was robbed?
The third one, the Samaritan.
That's right, because my neighbour is anyone who needs my help. So you too go and help your neighbour.
Growing up, my town, Guildford, didn't really have a football team, so I supported a team from a town a few miles away called Woking, and I'm still a big fan. I absolutely love them. I saw them play on Saturday online. It was great. We won. Woohoo! Our nearest rivals, probably a similar level, are a team called Aldershot, who are a few miles away. I love it, if I'm honest, when Aldershot lose. No doubt Aldershot fans love it when Woking lose. I had a friend in my youth group growing up called Matthew, who was an Aldershot fan. And even though we'd have a bit of a laugh if either of our clubs lost, we didn't hate each other. We still liked each other. We'd get on well with each other. We'd spend time with each other. We'd happily chat. It was fine. We didn't dislike each other. But in our story today, the people listening would have been shocked when they heard that it was the Samaritan who helped the person. Because God's people, the Jewish people and the Samaritans, really didn't like each other. They hated each other. They wouldn't spend any time together. So for the Samaritan to be the person who helped, that would have made the people think, wow, what on earth is going on here? This person who I don't like is the person being kind. And what Jesus was saying is, actually, it's not about who we live next door. It's not, for me, about Duncan, who was my next door neighbour, who I got on well with growing up. He's saying that everybody is our neighbour, whether they live near us or not, whether they're someone we really like or whether it's someone we find it hard to like. If we see someone who needs help, we should show kindness, just like the person in our story today. Unlike the priest who just crossed the road and walked by, he stopped. He used his time to help the man. He used his money. He paid for that man to get better. He was the one who really made the difference, even though he was helping someone who he probably didn't like that much. And Jesus was saying, that's what we should do in our life. It's really easy to show kindness to our friends, to our family, to the people we love and care for. And Jesus isn't saying that's wrong, don't be kind to them. But he's saying, be kind to anybody who needs your help. Whether it's someone here at school, someone in your class who you get on well with, or maybe someone at school who you don't always get on well with. If you see them needing help and you know you can help them in any way, then Jesus would want you to go and help them, just like the Samaritan in our story. It doesn't have to be something major, but showing kindness to everyone is a much better way to live our life than just being kind to the people we like. We should be kind to everyone, because that's what we should be doing. We should be looking out to see if you can help anyone. Make sure you go and do it. Don't just think, oh, I'm not helping them. They're a Liverpool fan. Or I'm not helping them. They're a girl. I don't want to help them. Or I'm not helping them. Whatever reason, just think, okay, whether I like them or not, I can help them. I can make their life better. I can make the difference in their life. And I know that's the right thing to do. So I'd like to sit and close your eyes for a minute and have a think, who's been kind to you over the last few days? Maybe someone at home or someone here at school. Maybe one of your friends or your teachers or your family members, someone at a club you go to. Think of something kind they've done for you. And then think, when was the last time you did something kind for someone? For your neighbour, whether it's the person who lives next door or anybody, who did you show kindness to? How can you show kindness to someone later on today? What can you do that can be kind to them? And I'm going to pray now, and if you want to make it your prayer too, you can join in by saying amen at the end if you agree with what I say. Father God, thank you for this story that Jesus told that showed us that we should be kind to everyone, whether it's someone we like or someone we find it hard to get on with. Help us to always make that right decision and to see that our neighbour is everybody around us, not just those we love, but anybody who needs our help. Thank you for the people in our lives who are kind to us too. Amen. So it's time to fill up our memory bag. Let's start with the ones that we had for this week's story. We had our bandage and we had the help CD. We've also got our pig. We've got our money bags. We've got our corn. We've got our eerie potato head. We've got our grapes. And we've got our turnaround sign. Will you remember all of those for next week? So to finish, we're going to learn a verse from the Bible. It's got a bit of an old-fashioned word in, a bit of a strange word called soul. It's kind of a bit like your spirit, your being. And the verse says, love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind, and love your neighbour as yourself. And as ever, we're going to do some actions to help us remember that. So we have love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind, and love your neighbour as you love yourself. And that's from Luke chapter 10, verse 27. So let's do that again together. So we have love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind, and love your neighbour as you love yourself. Luke chapter 10, verse 27. One more time, let's do it together. So, love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind, and love your neighbour as you love yourself. Luke chapter 10, verse 27. And there's our message for the week, to love God and also love our neighbour. And if we all do that, then life for each one of us is going to be so much better. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's story and things to think about. We'll see you again next week. Bye.